goodnight, and thoughts pass through my mind. I wonder where you came from and what you left behind. Another time, another life, with secrets dark and deep. And I realize that I have better things to do than lie here in the darkness, losing sleep. And it's none of my business what you think, or where you eat, or what you drink. It's none of my business who you see, and none of your business what becomes of me. I've gone away, but I've got nothing more to say. And if there is something I should do, it won't be done till I hear from you. I took a walk the other day and I was feeling fine. And as I turned a corner, I met a friend of mine. He looked at me and stopped and stared and blinked and shook his head. He gasped as if to catch his breath, and this is what he said: "You really ought to get that looked at, don't wait another day. You really ought to get that looked at, or it might get stuck that way." I kept on walking on my way and saw a traffic cop. I wasn't going to cross the street, but he signaled me to stop. He held the traffic motionless and quickly left his post. He spoke to me with a face as pale as if he'd seen a ghost. "You really ought to get that looked at before it gets much worse. I've radioed an ambulance before you need a hearse." The ambulance came screaming up, they made me climb inside, and the next thing that I knew, I was going for a ride. They rushed me to the hospital and said forget the fee. The doctor saw me right away and then he said to me, "You really ought to get that looked at by someone else, not me. I'm writing a referral to a specialist you should see." The specialist was just next door, and so they rushed me there. And when he took one look at me, he howled and tore his hair. He said, "We'll have to operate right now, without a doubt." He jabbed a needle in my arm, and then the lights went out. I woke up in a hazy fog, but as my sight returned, I saw a nurse and a specialist, both looking quite concerned. The specialist was whispering, "We gave him up for dead." And then he had made me brace myself, and this is what he said. You really should have got that looked at. You got here much too late. We found some complications and we had to amputate. I asked them what had happened, but neither one would say. They exchanged some awkward glances and turned and walked away. I spent a week in rehab where they made an awful fuss, but the details of my problem they'd simply not discuss. And now the strangers that I meet are careful what they say. They look at me with sympathy before they break away. So listen to the people now and follow their advice. Do what they say and right away, don't make them tell you twice. You really ought to get that looked at and isolate the cause, or you just might end up losing it and not know what it was. I asked the doctor if I would be able to play the piano. He looked me in the eye and told me no. These days I can only write about you, even though I know there's no good reason to. At the end of every day, you'll go on your merry separate way, but these days I can only write about you. These days I can only write about you, even though it's not a thing I'd wish to do. And I hate to waste your time, but I never could resist a rhyme. And these days I can only write about you. And there's nothing I can say that you'd consider to be great, but it seems to be okay to use it in the middle eight. These days I can only write about you, though there's nothing I can say that you'd find beautiful or true. And I hope there's no offense, since the whole thing makes so little sense. But these days I can only write about you. I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon. I might even call it crayon, so everyone gets the idea. You know that it's got to be colorful, and I'll have the whole world to draw on. Yeah, I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon. I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon, crayon. Sometimes it might have a touch of the blues or some other color of crayon. And I can keep on repeating the title so everyone's sure to remember it. Yeah, I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon, crayon. Let the flute player in. I'll color the flute player silver, and the horn section gets to be gold, and the bass player gets to be purple like rain or gray if the bass is old. And there's plenty of room for the blacks and the browns, and no, we won't forget the whites. I'll have the whole rainbow and then some in the music I'm gonna call crayon, crayon. Let the string players in. I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon, crayon, for every religion and politic, so we won't fear the yellow peril, and we won't worry about the red menace, and sometimes we'll party with the greens, all right. I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon, crayon. When will the choir show up? I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon, crayon. The lyrics won't be too suggestive, but the rhythm is nice and smooth. And if you play it for your lover, you know that they'll get the picture. Yeah, I think I'll invent a new kind of music. I think I'll call it crayon, crayon. They say memory is strange, and they say that things can change, and people drift apart as time goes by. But I don't believe it's true, and I always will believe in you. This feeling that I have will never die, and no one in the world could be so wonderful, and no one in the world could be so kind, and nothing in the world can come between us. You're a miracle I'll never leave behind. They say memory is strange, and sometimes things can change. I just called to keep in touch, and there's nothing new that matters much, and there's not a lot to say except for hi. And I hope you're doing well. It's so busy that it's hard to tell how long it's been. The time keeps going by, and I've met a few new people who are interesting, though most of them don't really suit your style. We'll have to pick a time to get together, although it may not happen for a while. But memory is strange, and sometimes things can change. I knew her years ago. I don't know what she's doing now, but I suppose she must be still alive. I think it's just as well. The world is full of people, and there isn't time to keep track of them all. And things are really not so bad these days. And she was nice, but really nothing special. And memory is strange, and you know how things can change. And I thought I heard someone singing. I thought I heard someone singing. I am lost in a senseless sea of metaphor, and everything I see is something else. In a way, I think every word is a metaphor, for it's just the name and not the thing itself. Is a word, 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 is a word. Oh, please. And nothing is a metaphor for nothing. That is the word and not the thing that's not. But maybe there's no metaphor for nothing, and silence is the closest thing we've got. I am lost in a senseless sea of metaphor, and lost becomes a metaphor for me. And the sea of metaphor has left me blinded. I'm a senseless metaphor, so I can't see. In a senseless sea, can't see, because it's senseless, just like me. But the sense of this is something I can't see. How precious. And is there anything that you wanted to know? It's really something else. And is there anywhere that you wanted to go? Another word for where you are right now. And is there anything that you wanted to say? Hear it differently. And is there any way to go that's not away from the sea of metaphor? Instrumental while we all think it over. I'll escape from the senseless sea of metaphor. There is another way, I know it dimly. For the metaphors become a prancing pony, and I'll ride it like a cowboy on a simile. It's like a simile anyway. It's more like a facsimile of a simile. Are we through yet? The guy on stage who I never even met is really very good, you know. And I don't even mind if my girlfriend wants to talk about him every other evening. so. And I don't need to criticize or analyze or minimize, 'cause the guy on stage who I've never even met is really very good, you know. The guy on stage who has never heard of me is really very good, you know. I'll just sit back and enjoy myself and never try to steal the show. Some things are still worth listening to, some things are good to see, and there's room enough in everybody's universe for everybody else and me. Some people look at life as a competitive sport, while others have opinions of a different sort. It really doesn't matter when it comes out the same, as long as you remember it's a game. The guy on stage went and wrote a song for me. It's the one you hear that's playing now. And if it's not always perfectly in key, well, it doesn't matter anyhow. Instead of finding something wrong, I just relax and sing along with the guy on stage who wrote this song for me. It's the one you hear me singing now. The guy on stage who I've never even met is really very good, you know. And I don't even mind if you want to come and listen to us every other evening or so. And if we don't reach number one, I still don't mind, we're having fun. 'Cause the guy on stage who I've never even met is really very good, you know. There's really no cause for concern. I'm sure in the long run you've nothing to learn. Just continue to go your own way. I really have nothing important to say. There's really no cause for alarm. I'm sure there's a chance you'll encounter no harm, depending on what you consider to be a dangerous destiny. And you might not get eaten by rats, you might get devoured by a lion instead. You might not get eaten by rats, but maybe a rabbit will nibble your head. And you'll see what you choose to see. And there's really no reason to listen to me. And if you dislike my advice, please don't consider it twice. And you might not get eaten by rats. I saw a flying cockroach gnawing on your shoe. You might not get eaten by rats, but a kitten might mistake you for a cordon bleu. And over the endless years, all the warnings continue to ring in my ears. Don't sit so close to the monitor. You're going to ruin your eyes. Don't sit so close to the radio. You're going to ruin your ears. Don't sit so close to Junius Brutus Booth. I can tell he's been drinking again. Don't sit so close to the saber-toothed tiger. He won't have room for dessert. And that's what they all said to me. And that's why I died of leprosy. But at least I didn't get eaten by rats. Until afterward. And you might not get eaten by rats. A cute little gerbil might get you instead. You might not get eaten by rats, but it isn't so bad if you're already dead. You might not get eaten by rats. A penguin might be really interesting. You might not get eaten by rats. They might have decided to order a pizza. There was a man named Winkelhoff who sold a lot of things. But when he made a deal, he would attach a lot of strings. He grew so rich, his wealth was more than he would ever need. But soon his clientele became disgusted by his greed. It got so bad the people couldn't stand it anymore. So they decided they'd no longer patronize his store. He opened up another shop and used a different name. But all the people figured out his game and said, it's just another euphemism for Winkelhoff. He's up to his usual tricks again today. You've always got to keep your eye on Winkelhoff, 'cause he'll do anything to get his way. He'd try to trick the women to obtain illicit gain. He'd say he had a snake, or they could ride upon his train, or any other image he could use as an excuse. But all the ladies recognized his ruse and said, it's just another euphemism for Winkelhoff. And Winkelhoff is always on the game, and all he ever thinks about is Winkelhoff, or Winkelhoff by any other name. And I'll admit this fable isn't strictly necessary, but I have been anointed by the asinine fairy. Consider these examples if you please, or not. Oh, Mr. Tuna Salad Man, don't stand so close to me. Your breath is like a cloud so thick that I can hardly see. And I don't want to try a sample even if it's free. Oh, Mr. Tuna Salad Man, don't stand so close to me. Oh, the ear in confection fairy is a very lonely soul, 'cause all the kids I know would rather get a lump of coal. And when she comes to town, all the doors start slamming shut, and if you holler, "Go away," all she says is, "What?" I've got a date with Little Miss Root Canal. Or would you prefer a businessman who says he'll be your pal? It's just another euphemism for Winkelhoff. It's Winkelhoff, my Winkelhoff, right or wrong. And everywhere you look, you'll find a Winkelhoff. Someday he'll worm his way into a song. Side each day, a kindred spirit to call your own. Oh, I have the answer, but not the solution. You're born and you die alone. You're seeking the road to wealth and comfort, and all of the money you need to spend. Oh, I have the answer, but not the solution. You'll lose it all in the end. People want to see what people want to see, and there's usually someone to find it. And when people show people what people want to see, there's usually something they're hiding behind it. People want to hear, and there's usually someone to tell them. And when people tell people what people want to hear, there's usually something they're trying to sell them. You want reassurance and peace of mind about where you belong in the master plan. Oh, I have the answer, and here's the solution. You do what you can while you can. There's a bone in the body I've been learning about. It's a genuine bone, there can be no doubt. You're born with it, and it's really nifty, but it breaks in half when you turn 50. You go through life feeling fine, but the bone still breaks when it hits its time. It doesn't much matter what you do when it finally catches up to you. Whether you're working or whether you're playing, all of a sudden you'll start saying, "I can do that, I can still do that, I can't do it anymore." It works the same way as the roundabout bone when your kid brother gets to spin all alone, and the monkey bar bone that splits in two when you're upside down hanging days are through. Dead of night or break of day, sooner or later you're bound to say, "I did that, I used to do that, I don't want to do it anymore." And it makes you feel like you want to yell, but who can you talk to? Who can you tell? The 20-year-old is inclined to doubt it, while the 80-year-old just says, tell me about it. January or July, one fine day you'll join the cry. I can do that, I can still do that, I can't do it anymore. I did that, I used to do that, I don't want to do it anymore. It used to be easy, just give me a minute. I have a mouse, and I gave her some cereal to keep the poor creature from becoming too ethereal. Cereal, ethereal, ethereal, cereal. That's been done before, that rhyme, that's been done before. I can't use it anymore, it's all used up. If I write a song about some chickens, you might declare that's poetry. And I would shoot you a withering glance instead of buckshot in the seat of the pants. And we both might do the fax machine dance to make the paper go through without jamming. Office supplies are not supposed to improvise. If I were to tell you of a Flemish painter who did all his greatest paintings in phlegm, that gag might not have been used by any other guy. And you could declare that there's a very good reason why. Or that Ogden Nash would have done it better, for he could make water seem even wetter, while I could only artlessly throw in a word like sweater. To return to the mouse, I called her poor. She lives in a cage and can't open the door. Don't imagine she hasn't tried before. She got out once, she got out twice. That's the thing about wild mice. But the lure of peanut butter was too strong, and she didn't remain at liberty for long. So the poor little mouse still lives in the cage. She doesn't get to drive to the office. She sleeps when she wants to and doesn't enjoy the benefits of a mandatory schedule. She runs on a wheel and she's faster than me. She can do it at night when I can't see. Actually, she lives in a bedding-lined aquarium, which contains no dirt, so I don't think I can call it a terrarium. But I think it better than an enema of barium. It's a good thing that I don't own a giraffe, though the verse would make you more likely to laugh. And it wouldn't be long, no more than a minute and a half. It occurred to me that the man we refer to as eloquent has merely told us a thing we already believe. And maybe he said it more simply or clearly or gracefully, with a dictionary or thesaurus up his sleeve. I'm pretty sure they fight though. But that's been done before, that gag, that's been done before. So I can't use it anymore, it's all used up. A screwdriver wants to sing the opera. His only friend, the carpenter, comes by. The carpenter knows nothing of the opera, but he's too kind to ask for reasons why. He says, "You've been a very useful screwdriver, and I am just an ordinary man. But I will try to learn about the opera, and I will try to help you if I can." The weekend comes and goes, and then the carpenter returns on Monday morning to the shop. He says the opera happens on a stage, and now and then they let a curtain drop. So if you want to go upon the stage, well, that's a job for varnishers to do. So I went by the hardware store on Saturday and brought a can of varnish here for you. A screwdriver wants to sing the opera, but nothing happens for a week or two. The carpenter says, "Maybe I've misunderstood. Perhaps this is a stage you're going through. So if you're set on going through the stage, I've got a plan that simply cannot fail. For when it comes to going through a stage, there's nothing like a 16-penny nail." As time goes by, the carpenter grows older, his overalls becoming thin and torn. And over many years of faithful service, the screwdriver is getting bent and worn. And then one day the carpenter stops coming, and all the shelves begin to fill with dust. And when the old shed roof begins to leak, the screwdriver puts on a coat of rust. A screwdriver wants to sing the opera, and then a young man brings his friends around. He says, "I've been reviewing Grandpa's diary, and there's this crazy entry that I found. I'd never thought that such a thing was possible. So I've come here to find out for myself." He He rummages around the ancient workshop and pulls the old screwdriver from the shelf. He brushes off the dust and checks the diary. He goes outside to see them in the sun. He scrapes away the rust and says, Eureka! At last I know for sure that you're the one. The screwdriver who wants to sing the opera. You served my grandpa all those years, and so it makes a most extraordinary story. And I'll make sure the world will come to know. A screwdriver wants to sing the opera, and now he's in a very special place. A small exhibit in a huge museum, inside a dust-proof, rust-proof, soundproof case. Even pliers have secret desires they grab all day and dream of